how do lobsters grow? Well, I don't care how lobsters grow. But I was interested in it, and it points out that a lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. Right? And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow, because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine, never gets off its shell. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
You know, this is a lot more common than we think, because I don't know how I ended up with such an idea at some point in my life where we consider difficult situations or difficult moments in life or difficult circumstances to be something we run away from entirely. We consider them to be problematic and unnecessary, even though every other thing in life is suggesting otherwise. Because it is certainly the case that when the typical person finds difficult situations to be traumatic, we very quickly sweep any form of resistance in the world, any form of discomfort, any form of uncertainty into the category of trauma and pain, and we basically look at it with deep and intense dislike and hatred. Meanwhile, when you look around the world, every single thing that is or can be considered important was built through pain and hard work and a good amount of strain and struggle, which will suggest to me at least that a good degree of energy and time and effort and pain is required to produce good and useful results. Because if you look at money, if you look at training in the gym to get a good body, if you look at technology, if you look at the social system, the political system, all of these categories of creative endeavor or categories of social interactions which require a lot of exchange of ideas and exchange of time and requiring a lot of deep and very complex dynamics of relationship and analysis. All of these things require a lot of effort, and so it is definitely not wise, or it's definitely a bit ignorant to consider that life is supposed to be easy when every other thing we see on a daily basis is suggesting otherwise. Because it is, I think, that at this point in time, it will be a lot more useful to have a swift change of mindset when in regards to work and struggle and pain. And just like he said in the video, the perspective you have towards it will determine whether or not it becomes a useful thing for you. So pain really and struggle really can either end up to be a fuel for the journey ahead for you, or it can be something that leads you down to the pit of trauma and deep uncertainty and deep unresolved situations that you have to deal with later in your life. So I think this is very, very useful information as far as I'm concerned, because the struggle is necessary. When you don't struggle, you don't value things. I'm sure that every single person has had a point in has had an opportunity in their lives where they willfully misused and disregarded things that were very easily gotten, things that were not really, you didn't really work hard for. The amount of energy you would expend to protect and utilize whatever it is that is the subject of discussion at that point in time, you wouldn't do so, because there is just something about it. There's just something about human beings and adaptation. The ability to adapt in difficult situations is the basis of evolution, is the basis for growth. Our own very own biology says that. The fact that we have come to this point in time, the fact that we are able to do things that we wouldn't necessarily think we can do in the long run, is evident that this particular point of view is useful. So I think it's a change in the mindset of how to use pain and struggle is needed, so that the whole discussion, public discussion about traumas will subside a little bit, because I think our focus has shifted so much into the direction of trauma that we begin to look at any form of resistance and struggle in the real world to be a problem rather than an opportunity. But then productivity suggests that viewing pain and struggle, of course not undue pain and struggle, not unnecessary pain and struggle, we mean the necessary ones. Necessary pain and struggle and difficult situations is what propels true and long-lasting growth. So I think it's quite useful.